Hello everyone! Today we will try to briefly look at the profile of our early Filipino ancestors. Are you familiar with this image? We have here one of the paintings referring to the Filipino community before the first colonizers. In this period, the Philippines is a rich and unique indigenous art. Our culture and traditions are done through stories, music, chants, songs, and dance. This is also true to our rituals. The early Filipinos are shifting cultivators. This means that they moved residents once the field for farming was cleared, which gave rise to a more dispersed population. The death of a family member signifies bad luck. Therefore, the deceased are burned and abandoned to remove the scent of the death and prevent another death in the family too soon. Eventually, they most likely live near bodies of water. This is because food is more accessible in rivers and seas. The coastal villages were ideal places for economic activity to develop. Business with foreign traders also meant contact with other cultures and civilizations, such as those of Japan, Han Chinese, Indian people, and Arab people. In time, these coastal communities acquired more advanced cultures with developed social structures ruled by established royalties and nobilities. Our residential patterns were either in trees, such as those found in northern Luzon, as a means of protection from their head-hunting enemies. Another type is the houses made of stones, like in Batanes. These houses protect the Ivatans from weather disturbances. And the last one are houses above water, such as those living in Honolulu, whose main food are seafoods. The pre-colonial Filipinos have an established social hierarchy, namely the Maharlika, Timawa, and the Alipin. In this table, we can see that there are two kinds of alipin, the aliping namamahay and aliping sa gigilid. The two are different from each other in a sense that the sa gigilid are not paid. They cannot own a property, they can be sold by the master, and can only marry upon the master's approval. Whereas, the aliping namamahay's services are paid. They can own properties and can become a timawa if she marries from the upper class. It is also interesting to note that the pre-colonial Philippines have well-organized and independent villages long before the Spaniards came. Within these barangays are leaders whom they call Datu or Sultan for Sultanate. We have here Datu Lapu-Lapu and Sultan Kudarat. As to our Filipino communities, we have the Ilawud, meaning near the shores, and the Ilaya, or the inland areas. As to education during the pre-colonial period, most children were provided with solely vocational training, which was supervised by parents. Tribal tutors are those assigned for specific specialized roles within their communities. For example, the Babaylan. One of the earliest schools is called the Butuan. In this vintage article in 1977, the Butuan is defined as more than a gymnasium or club. A Butuan is also a cherished place of learning and fostering of brotherhood amongst Kali devotees. In here, children are taught physical techniques and other ways of learning. Our language writing system is called the Baybayin. One of the reasons why we don't see a lot of our recorded histories is because our ancestors used colored saps as inks and wrote them in bamboo tubes or barks of trees, which would eventually decompose. At present, the Tagbanwas of Palawan and Hanono Mangyan of Mindoro still write Baybayin. Traditional courtship in the Philippines is described as a far more subdued and indirect approach compared to Western and Westernized cultures. Evident in courtship in the Philippines is the practice of harana or singing romantic love songs, reciting poems, writing letters, and gift-giving. Have you witnessed harana during these times? The practice of harana is believed to have started in 19th century and was inspired with Spanish folk songs. Sadly, harana is almost non-existent today. Lastly, the Filipinos celebrate good harvest, weddings, offerings, and victories at war through a community festivity which has evolved today as our fiestas. Before we formally end, let us talk about the discovery of a skull cap remains in Tabon Cave, Palawan on May 28, 1962 by Robert B. Fox. Now this is important because it would tell us that the Philippines has been occupied by humans some 1,000 years ago. But wait, there's more. A discovery in 2007 of the so-called Calao Man in Calao Cave in Cagayan Province may prove that the Philippines could have been inhabited by humans more than a dozen millennia before the so-called Tabon Man of Palawan. Interesting, isn't it? So that's our brief profile of our early Filipino ancestors. I hope you learned something from today's video. Subscribe for more.